Hello, and welcome back to Project Rejectus. It's been a while since our last episode here. Been focusing a bit more on my new series Landermouse, but don't worry, I haven't forgotten about this project. But that's enough talking, let's get started and see how Glacially had advanced. To simply it Abbott. Let's see what happened to all those Trumetaceos that sailed away trying to find some peace from the war. Now, this wasn't just one journey, as you can see. They made these trips a lot during this time as the war raged on. To start us off, let's see what happened to the Wanderers' voyages. Having completely avoided Vetus, they went further north, all the way to Turnham's North Pole. While these trips were much longer and more dangerous, the Wanderers preferred to risk it all the way up north, then suffer the harsh heat of Vetus. They took their chances with the desolate sheets of ice in Turnham with almost no life to be seen. Which, while that does sound bad, it's not much different than the Wanderers' previous home. They weren't completely underprepared, however, as the Wanderers of course brought livestock and food to make their farms, such as purple stalks Nisris, of course Lanaceus, and Zenitors. Now, despite being a desolate, icy wasteland, the lack of animals in the northern pole allowed the Wanderers to basically build an entirely new ecosystem from their livestock, making purple stalks appear across the land, with Zenitors following as they gave new life to the desolate land. It wasn't all peaceful, however, as there was one animal that decided to live in this wasteland. A little blast from the past, but the Aduem proved to be quite an issue for the early Wanderers. Since they had so much food, Aduem would constantly attack their villages, stealing their fish and other meats. While these animals were afraid of the Wanderers at first, over time, they realized just how much stronger they were than them, and started stealing food and killing livestock. The Wanderers didn't take too kindly to this, and quickly, they would adapt, learning how to kill these giant beasts. With only a spear and little armor made from Aduem shells, these hunters exist to protect villages all over. They begin this life at very young ages to gain experience with the killing of an Aduem, even becoming a coming-of-age ritual over time. With all Trumetaceos in this region believing once you kill an Aduem, you are ready to venture out on your own. While this started simply to protect their villages, this job and lifestyle became very important to these Trumetaceos' culture. Aduem shells and skulls are seen as a symbol of respect and strength here, showing how capable the hunter is. 1 down, 3 to go. For the next civilization on our list, let's go down back south to the Grexlands to see how they have advanced since the end of the Bronze Age. Now, to put this simply, the Grexlands are in shambles. After the Great War, the kingdoms began to turn on themselves, leading to multiple civil wars, which eventually dragged in other Grexland nations to help their wars. And with all this fighting happening after the last devastating war, well, the economy is also in shambles, making the Grexlands one of the worst places to be at the moment. But despite all of that, one nation preserves the blue state, known as Mentalis. Having isolated themselves from the other nations, they have temporarily become stable. Founded by plague doctors after the Bronze Age, this kingdom is filled with hybrid Trumetaceos, having the highest population in the entire world. It makes the country a safe haven for hybrids due to the negative view society has on them for their strange traditions and blood. Despite this, the future is bright for Mentalis. With a new king on the way, what can possibly go wrong? Teucanicus II walks through the shoddy streets of his kingdom after his recent coronation, taking in the sights of the lower classes. He wonders if he can do this. The sap crown on his back is a heavy burden to bear. He thinks of all the things his parents told him. How he must be perfect. How he must lead the world into their God's light. How only he can do this. As you can probably tell, Teucanicus was extremely pressed by his parents while they were still alive, and it still stresses him out long after their death. He still remembers that day well. His father was yelling at him, saying how Teucanicus should be better than this. How does he expect to be king if he can't even do simple tasks? While arguments like this happened often, something was different this time. Something in Teucanicus was tired and ready to stop this once and for all. After that day, Teucanicus promised he would make the kingdom in his parents' image, making the perfect world they always wanted. Despite the young king's promising future, it would all be downhill from here. The stress, the guilt, it made him insane, causing him to only settle for perfection in his twisted vision. Even if it came at the cost of him nation, he would fulfill his parents' wishes. Law by law, every decision he made brought him one step closer to his goal, but his kingdom 10 steps closer to its end. He spent many years doing the same thing, accepting something different. Surely this was Korka's will, right? There is a point to all of this, isn't there? In the end, Teucanicus only brought his kingdom even farther from Korka's light, as the people rebelled for change. The kingdom soon fell apart, becoming just like the rest of the Greeks' lands, a mess of nations trying to put themselves back together. A sad fate for the Greeks' lands, as even the most promising of them all fell in with the rest of the madness. Also, sorry for bringing that depressing story out of nowhere. Just wanted to make something a bit more disturbing. I promise the next two are a lot happier. Back to the sailors. Why don't we go see what happened to the wood-facers and island dwarfs on their journey to Turnham? Finding themselves in this hot new environment, the wood-facers and island dwarfs would have to adapt quickly or die. While some parts were easier due to the wood-facers already living in jungle environments and the much larger amount of food in this new world, there was still obvious problems like changing your lifestyle from a sub-zero climate to a very warm and humid one. While losing their thick layer of fat helped to cool them down, they still stick to colder areas such as mountains to survive. Despite all these adaptations, these settlers still struggled keeping their population low as their survival was dependent on trading with the wood-facers from the old world. The island dwarfs that came with the wood-facers faced some similar issues. Luckily, their smaller size allowed them to eat less and produce less heat compared to their larger cousins. Despite their advantages to their larger cousins, the dwarfs were still in the same boat as them, struggling to get along without help from the mainland. This was going to change soon as a new discovery made the Trumetaceos realize how little they know about their world. As said by the scholar Tuma, strange two-legged creatures roam the lands around them, always watching but never interacting. If you've seen one, they have probably been there longer than you can even imagine. I believe these creatures to be nothing but myths until one of them just appeared in the middle of a rainstorm staring at me and my children. I don't know how to describe it, but there was this spark of intelligence in their dead eyes. The creatures described here are not myths, but large descendants of the humble Vumraks who have advanced their intelligence. All these factors created the restore before is known as the Navites. They evolved shortly after the Trumetaceos did. While they may not be as advanced as the Trumetaceos, don't think they're stupid, as their intelligence is on par with the Trumetaceos and may even be smarter. These people are currently in their equivalent of the Stone Age, having not discovered copper or any other metals. Their tools are usually made of wood. Especially pterimophytes are used for their tools and houses similar to bamboo. This fast-growing plant proves to be a valuable resource for the Navites. And while they're still very early on in their development, they even have some domesticated animals. Descended from the Ortrums, the Navites have domesticated these animals to fit many needs. Specifically, they breed them similar to horses on Earth, using them for travel. They proved very effective, as not only could they move around the dense forest, but also the many swamps of the continent. Their great sense of smell and detection proved useful, as well as they were often used as trackers to find missing items. They were also bred to have a small point on their beaks to help them dig in order to find buried items. The other reason these animals were bred were as livestock much bigger and bulkier than their wild cousins. The Navites bred the shells out of these animals to make them easier to eat, also giving them very docile natures, so they wouldn't mind the Navites. The last domesticated animal the Navites have is the Molnia. Unlike the other domesticated animal the Navites have, the Molnia is self-domesticated. Since Navites usually live around their forests, they usually came into their camps eating the small animals after the Navites' food. Similar to cats, since this was good for the Navites, they let the Molnia stay and even come with them. acting as pest control. And while they haven't figured it out yet, they are starting to use the Molnia silk to make items such as stronger ropes. Now that the introduction is over, let me explain why the Navites have decided to make themselves appear to the Trumetaceos. While they were wary at first, they saw the intelligence of the Trumetaceos and their struggles, and decided to confront them to see if they are friend or foe, offering the Trumetaceos many gifts in exchange for their advanced tools. The two species built a strong trading relationship. This greatly helped the Trumetaceos as they now had the resources to live here independently and comfortably. They even created a small tradition to celebrate their trade union, where both the species gathered for a great feast at the end of the year. And now, it's time to see what's the mountain beasts have been up to psych. We will be exploring that next episode. But don't worry, I'll give you a little letter written by one of the mountain beasts' military generals. I know what the old ones wrote all those years ago, how we should leave the red ones alone, and they leave us alone. But I don't think they ever imagined how bad the future would be. Our mountains prosper while the Grexlands falls in on itself. It's gotten so bad the forests are almost empty from how many of them have traveled beyond the sea. Same with the ice sheets, I haven't seen anyone there in years. I see now Korka's purpose for the mountains. We stand high above them, because it is us who are supposed to lead the others to glory. I swear by our steel and fire, the red ones and all our brothers suffering shall see the light of the mountains. Wow, 12 minutes. My videos are a lot longer than before. Thank you all for watching until the end. As you might have seen, tried to make it a bit more dramatic than my usual videos. While stressful with all the setbacks, I really enjoyed making this because of this difference. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in a couple weeks. Goodbye for now.